What is going on, YouTube universe? Welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, where we discuss everything Australian rules football, and today it is all about SuperCoach. Round 1 kicks off tonight with Carlton taking on Richmond, and as per usual, I am late to the party with getting my team updates officially launched so you guys can see the moves I'm making, as if people even give a fuck about the moves I'm making. But anyway, I digress. We have made a lot of changes from my first team pre-round 0 to this particular team coming up, which will be the final team I'm locking in before we get official scores and head-to-head battles and everything else going on within the format. And there's a couple of players that I'm going to be looking to bring into my team that are very low percentage owned, and I'm hoping these pods can help me stand against teams that are very cookie cutter. And we'll talk about that in a moment when we talk about the players I'm bringing in and the players I've kept. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's dive on in. As you can see on screen, these are the remaining players from my pre-round 0 team. I have deleted everybody else that I'm moving on, and those slots will be filled in today's video, and I will also talk about other players I've thought about in the role, so on and so forth. But the players that have made the cut have done so for a reason. Port Adelaide's draw, we discussed it pre-round 0. They have an incredibly good run this year, and it is hard to look past the combination of Connor Rozee in defence and Zach Butters in the midfield, both of which are going to be top 6 to 8 in the league. I mean, Butters will be a top 5 midfielder. Connor Rozee, I think, will be a top 6 defender. There's nothing I don't think that will change my mind in that mindset. Todd Marshall still in the forward line, moved as a key forward to a key back. He's been taking a lot of kick-ins during match simulation. He has got a great set of hands, so intercept marking is going to be his game. I'm happy to have him still on the bench, getting us that cash build up so we can, trade him off when the time comes and we can do an upgrade in a big way. Josh Dacos was a pod for myself in defense, and I'm happy to leave him there. I see a lot of people in this particular role looking at a Colby McKercher or even a Jordan Clark, and Jordan Clark is one that I've always loved to bring in on previous seasons. He is buy-friendly as well, which is why I think a lot of people are leaning into a Jordan Clark selection over a Dacos here, because Dacos is going to get hit this season with the double buy. But I think what solidified this choice for me was not only the discussion pre-round 0 of him potentially getting some midfield time, but seeing Collingwood in action against St Kilda and seeing that they're looking to slow play down and they're happy to kick the ball backwards and forwards. Josh Dacos is going to get a lot of easy kicks to and fro, which means a lot of marks, which means a lot of accurate disposal, which means he is going to bolster his score by doing so. I did also say pre-round 0, if Josh Dacos plays a certain role, Dan Houston's stocks could rise as well, and Dan Houston just scored shy of 100 points last week against St Kilda. Could be one you look at for a more mid-pricer kind of range, because I definitely feel he will be back this year. I don't think he'll be a top 10, but he's a great stepping stone to get to somebody who will be. Josh Lindsay, we haven't seen him in action yet. We will this weekend, but he is one of the most must-have rookies, I feel, over the course of the competition in any location. Just his preseason was absolutely sensational. He looks good to go. Very hard to look past him. Jai Sarong scored 60 up until halftime, but then finished on 77. But then there was a lot of players who kind of dropped off in that game due to different circumstances. Given the fact that Carlton barely scored anything after halftime, you can excuse somebody playing a defensive role not scoring all too much. But a 77 for a guy who couldn't break into a Hawthorn team, he's a very solid pick. I'm happy to have him on field scoring for me, and he will be around for a very long time until he maxes out his cash generation. He could end up even being a solid scorer for your bench later on in the year for bench coverage. In the midfield, we've already spoken about Zach Butters. Nick Dacos, happy to keep him on board, and as you can see, I've actually faded Marcus Bontempelli here, and I've done so for a reason. Marcus Bontempelli's CBA was at 46% in round 0. That does mean if he continues to have less than 50% midfield time, he will end up getting forward DPP when that time comes. I am happy to bring Bontempelli in at a discounted rate in my forward line as one of my first upgrades when that time comes, because I think we will get a Marcus Bontempelli mid-forward change this year. He kicked 3 goals. I think he kicked 3 goals. You take away those goals he kicked and then the kicks that he made for those as well. That takes a decent amount of points off. And for someone who's 700k, without those goals, was scoring a sub maybe 90, I'm not paying 700,000 for somebody who's not going to be getting midfield time and thrown around. He's going to get bevoed this year. He could be the one that costs us a fair bit. But as a selection for your forward line, you could afford maybe a 90 to 100 points because there's going to be less of a spread with the forwards that we have available versus the midfielders that could pop off with big numbers. So Nick Dacos, to me, 41 disposals, only 6 of those were contested, which is maybe why he only got the 117. But they still look like they're wanting to get the ball in his hands. He's an accumulator. He's going to get plenty of it. And we know he can hit the scoreboard. So I'm happy to lock him in at this price. Maybe at the behest of knowing he's going to get tagged early in the piece, but I'm happy to keep him there. Sam Grill, announced for debut. Happy to lock him in. He'll play off of halfback, maybe some wing time for Richmond. They love him at Tigerland, and they'll give him plenty of time to grow. So he was a lock for me as soon as we drafted him, because I knew he was going to make a difference. I knew he was going to come straight into the team, and I'm happy that he's going to get that debut. Jagger Smith, 65 last week against Sydney. His disposal efficiency ran at 74%, which was a lot higher than what I thought in real time. I thought he butchered the ball a little bit more. Once he starts nailing those kicks a bit more, once he's more clean with disposal and composure, he will score 80 to a 90. I'm still happy to take the numbers that he's dishing up at his price point. So, again, he's going to get guaranteed game time unless he gets injured. So I'm keeping him in the team. He's a lock. Sharp for me on the bench. Named for a debut this week against Essendon. Essendon need movers in the midfield. He is the touted as the most ready-made midfielder in last year's draft. Let's see what he can bring to the table. Happy to lock him up on the bench. Carroll's position off half-back for St Kilda didn't make use of many opportunities, I felt, last week against Collingwood, but I still have him placed ahead of certain players on their list, and there are other players on St Kilda's list currently that are 3 to 6 weeks away injury-wise that play the same roles. So maybe he's got a bit of a reprieve and we can get a month of him building a resume to see whether he keeps the spot. But with bench options for the midfield, I think a little bit slim. Carroll's one that I'm happy to lock up. Tristan Cherry, we haven't seen him yet, but you can't go past his start to the season. If we bring it up, which I'll do right now, his start to this year is too hard to ignore. Way too hard. Comes up against Port Adelaide this week, who don't have a bona fide ruckman. They've got Jordan Sweet. Next week, he takes on West Coast. Then he takes on Essendon. Then he takes on Carlton. Then he takes on Brisbane, who will be Darcy Fort and Sam Draper. Then he takes on Nankervis, who I think will be his first test because him and Nank are very similar in game style. Then he takes on GWS. Then he takes on Geelong. Then he takes on Brodie Grundy. Again, a test. Then he takes on Adelaide. 2 games out of his first 10 are going to truly test his ability. He should score monster numbers in the first 10 weeks, and I'm happy to lock him up as R1. Forward line, again, this is as cookie cutter as they come. Harry Sheasel as my number 1. Sam Flanders and Philippou in there. I thought Philippou did enough. Sam Flanders, I was a little bit down on, considering he had like 30 disposals. He just needs to really lift his efficiency. Lombard, happy to lock him up. He looked good against Geelong last week. I've already spoken about Todd Marshall and his move to defence. He'll end up getting forward defensive DPP, so one to keep an eye on there. And Dev Robinson, out of all of the rookies that they have there at West Coast, outside of maybe Cooper Duff Tyler or a William Dersma, he is the one that I'm happy to lock up on the bench there. He looks primed and ready to go. That's all the players I'm keeping. We can now systematically work our way down each and every list. I think I'm going to start with the rucks. My R2, actually my flex, and we will go from the bottom because it is going to be a cheapie. I am going to bring in McAndrew from Adelaide, who is the Adelaide ruckman that has been named to debut this week. He looks to be Adelaide's number 1 ruck choice, which is huge. He's been putting up big numbers over the preseason tournaments and the community series. If he's R1, if he scores us 90 points a week, I think you take that as a flex, especially when you've got Flanders dishing up a 77, or you get a 66 out of a Philippou, a sub 70 out of, Smith. he could be the difference of 30 points, and he's going to generate cash like you wouldn't believe. So happy to lock him up in that spot. I'm a little bit concerned about the bench ruck spot because Liam Reedy did get omitted this week. So we're going to roll the dice with a player who I think might get some game time. I'm taking some advice from my good friend DR from SuperCoach, SuperCoach with DR. SuperCoach Saws play with DR as well. For my R2, actually, for the bench spot, I'm just going to do it now. We're going with ZZ Top. We're going with the bloke from Brisbane. Now, he had a serviceable game last week against the Bulldogs, against Tim English. 56 is nothing to scoff at. But he has defensive capabilities here. And with both Gardner and Harris Andrews out, even with Sam Draper coming back into the team, you would think that maybe they keep ZZ Top around enough to fill a defensive role, and I don't think Sam Draper's body will hold up all too much. So when you've got a young kid who can step up into the role and get a little bit more drive, a little bit more sustainability out of his body, I'm willing to have a chance, especially with Reedy getting dropped. Reedy was going to be a slow burn anyway with 34 points last week, but there's really no one else in this role that can be selected unless Melbourne come out and say, oh, we're selecting Kalani White, but he is still listed as being available round 5 to round 7 with glandular fever. If we can keep ZZ Top around until round 5 to round 7 and he can make us, 50 to 100k, you drop him down to a basement bottom player in Kalani White and you can go to town with some upgrades, which I absolutely love. My true R2 though, as we go to highest price, I will happily lock in Tim English. He was one that I was looking at all off-season due to these ruck changes and being more affordable to athletic ruckmen. I'm still in two minds about these changes too, because one of the rules that was supposed to be changing was the takeaway of not having to nominate for the ruck. The umpires were just going to throw the ball up, and too often during round 0 you could still hear the umpires asking who was going to be in the ruck contest, trying to point out the rucks instead of just throwing the ball up. Some of the ruckmen, and I remember Rowan Marshall did it at one point, actually said to the umpire, just throw the ball up. I don't know. It still remains to be seen. We still had plenty of throw-ins from balls spilling out in between the arcs as well, instead of doing that last touch rule. So English, to me, very athletic, will get plenty of movement around the ground. He can kick goals, he can intercept mark. I think his role is incredibly good. I'm happy to start him there, even if he only, serves us for a little bit. He could eventually become a flex option for us if we look at bringing in a Brodie Grundy, a Max Gawn. We get a better look at a Luke Jackson later on down the line. But the combination of Cherry and English, very exciting to me in that ruck line. Looking at the forward line, it's easy for us to piece this out next. I faded him early because I wasn't sure about the role he was going to play. But after the game he played, you would be stupid not to have Christian Petrarca in your team. Now, is he going to score 170 every week? Is he going to kick, 3 and have 34 every week? No, he won't, because we've still got Matt Rowell to come back into this midfield. And when Rowell comes back in, maybe Petrarca's exposure within that midfield will be pared back a little bit. But even then, I see Petrarca averaging 100 to 110 this season comfortably in the role he's got, and I was stupid to even fade him. I tried to do something different and a little bit more edgy by going with the combination of Toby Green and Keziah Pickett, but with Pickett's positioning up in the air, with Toby Green only dishing out an 89 and not really getting as much midfield time as I thought he would, I'm happy to just go with a solidified banger here. We go with Christian Petrarca. Now, a lot of people are going to say that I'm only getting on board this next player because of how he scored in the opening round, and you're partially right. I am only getting on board this player because of how he scored in the opening round, and that is Connor Budarick. He was on my radar pre-round 0, but I wanted to see how his role played out with the likes of Bailey Dale in defense, Bailey Williams, these players that all play a similar Connor Budarick typing role. 105. He looked absolutely incredible. He looks to be a solid cash cow for us in a forward line where maybe the cash cows will be a little bit hit or miss. We could go with a Sam Lawler, but will his body hold up? That's the question to ask. I originally had Taj Houghton in here, but he's gone and done a fucking hip injury and he's going to miss the opening 10 weeks. I'm so shattered by that. But Budarick, with that role, he's proven he can play well. He was one of Bulldogs' best past weekend against the reigning premiers. Nobody really pushing him out for this spot as well, so I'm happy to lock him in. If he gets dropped down the line, there are plenty of players around this price point that we can look to shifting to when the time comes. Defensively, this is interesting. I had Lachie Whitfield as my D1. Didn't really like the look of him rather. Defensively, we originally had Lachie Whitfield in D1, but I didn't really like the look of the role he played last weekend. I did say Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira going to the midfield would see him maybe tagged out, and that happened, and he had a stinker. And I did say the entire time that Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira moving into the midfield would expose one player to be able to absolutely get off the chain with big numbers, and we are locking in Jack Sinclair. Taking in kickings, rebounding off of the half-back line, even had some CBA attendances in the game as well. He's not going to score 140 every week, but again, this is a player that can average us anywhere from 110 to 120 on a good day. I'm happy to lock him up. He solidified that role for me against Collingwood, and if he's the one that's going to be taking the kick-ins, he's the one that they're looking to get the kick-ins to, he's going to find plenty of the ball every week. Let's lock him up. In the next couple of roles, I could have gone for like a mid-pricer maybe. I'm going to go rookie basement prices for the next 3 because I'm looking to really bolster my midfield selections, and we're going to run with 5 premium selections in the midfield. So having a look here, there are 2 Bulldogs I want to bring in. Again, I floated the idea of bringing one of them in during the pre-zero. Wade Dirksen was originally in my team as well, but still hasn't got an opportunity yet, which is a little bit upsetting because I actually thought he was a better selection than some of the Carlton boys rather that did get selected. Flynn Perez, interesting watch as well. Very good friends with Jack Ginnivan, has had a good couple of years outside of an AFL system. So to come back in as the supplementary selection, I think they might be big on him. It'll be interesting to see whether we see him get a run early. Obviously, we didn't last weekend gone, but could get a call up early, I hope. The ones we're looking at, we are looking to bring in, as we roll on down, because we're going to the doggies, and they're both at the same price point, we are bringing in Lockie Jarks, or Jax, however you want to pronounce that, and we are bringing in Michael Selwood. Don't know whether both of these long-term keep their spots, but they played last week. They scored well. They contributed well, again, in a defensive line that is pretty strong already. So, again, is competition for spots really up for grabs if they play this well? I'm not too sure. They do have a note on Jarks here. Jarks was another rookie. Oh, hang on. Why have I gone and clicked on that? I didn't mean to click on that. I do apologize. We're running in real time. I'm a fucking idiot. Jarks was another rookie that has become a lock with a big score and will have great break even for his 3rd game. Absolutely fantastic. So Sarong, obviously, we're keeping. The final slot here. Who was I actually bringing in? Who did I have? I can't remember who I had. I think I did have Dirksen in this spot anyway, but what I'm going to do is we're going to leave that spot open and see who we can pick up with the money we got left after the changes I make here. Now, the big one is Jacob Farrow never got named. I thought he would get early game time for Essendon. Did not get named. Not even for a bench spot for Essendon this week. So, interesting watch. For the bench, we will go low in the midfield straight away. We are going with Tom Blomyers. He has been a supplementary pickup for North Melbourne, and he gets a debut round 1. So, they're big on this kid. I don't know whether George Wardlaw coming back in pushes him out. Maybe. I don't know. But he gets opportunity at 99,000. If he gets dropped but then comes back in, we can keep him on the bench. I mean, you're rolling the dice on a basement-priced rookie here that allows you to spend money elsewhere. And he's playing this weekend, which gives you the flexibility of knowing that, you know, you're selecting somebody who's going to gain some cash if he can keep his spot. And with a low price, hopefully he scores well enough this weekend, maybe gives himself a big break even heading into his 3rd round price range and his price upgrade. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Now for my midfielders, I want to go for a point of difference here. I originally in these spots had Marcus Bontempelli and Errol Goulden. Before round 0 went down, I brought in Sam Walsh, but I'm not really convinced on Sam Walsh. He was on 80 Supercoach, I think, at halftime, and then only managed to score 103 or something by the end of it. Lachie Neale popped off last week, but with the loss of Hugh McCluggage, does he now get a little bit more attention around the contest? I don't know. I am looking to bring in, as I said, though, somebody who is a low percentage owned and I think could score incredibly well. I'm going to go with Tuke Miller. Scored 120 last week. When you have a look at his score breakdown for 2025, quite impressive. And I feel he's a very underrated pick here. His lowest output last season was a 45 where he got injured. Outside of that, he never scored below an 85, which he only scored a sub 90 once, and he only scored, outside of the 45 rather, but he scored a sub 90 once, and he scored a sub 100 twice. Every other game, he scored 100 or more, finishing the season off with 146, 101, and 109. Now, they run up against West Coast this coming weekend, and if you have a look at what he scored 128 last year at West Coast in West Coast. I think he could be a good pick, especially given the role he's been playing at the Gold Coast. He plays the outside wing role. He's obviously getting midfield minutes due to Matt Rao being out, but he's also been floated off of halfback a little bit too. I think the role's there, money to be made. Is he going to be a top 10 keeper? I don't know, but we can keep him long enough at this price point to get a bit of a price range, and then we can flip him later on in the season. I'm happy to take him as a 2% owned. Like, I'd rather take him at a 2% than Anderson, who's at a 17. I need to do something different because too many teams in Supercoach this year look too much the same. I mean, my forward line, you could probably run that against 100% of teams and almost 100% of them would have exactly the same players selected. The back line, everyone's got Rosie, everyone would have Sarong, everyone would have Lindsay and Jarks, maybe not Selwood, maybe not Dacos. I think Dacos is still a pod for myself, but Sinclair's stock's rised. You know, Butters is in nearly, almost every team. Dacos has a high ownership. Grill and Smith have a high ownership. So we need to start selecting players that are going to produce points, but give me a good point of difference. In this next slot, I'm also rolling the dice with LDU, Luke Davies-Uniacke, from North Melbourne. We could use money elsewhere to upgrade if we wanted to bring in somebody else, but looking at his numbers last year, I mean, he had the dip of 72. He had a dip of 63. He finished the year off strong with a few hundreds. St Kilda, GWS, Richmond, and Adelaide. And he went 112, 102, 157, 119. Some of the other teams that have taggers, like Geelong has Atkins. I think he got injured in that Bulldogs game. Some other games here that he scored unders. Again, will he be in my final team before the round kicks off later tonight? He could be one even by the end of this video. I'll look at upgrading if I've got money left over. But again, at his price point, 4% owned. Happy to bring him in. Because again, I could bring in a Walsh, but Walsh has gone up to 22%. He wasn't that big this entire time. Just puts me off just a little bit. I mean, Jack Steele at 6% could be tempting. I don't know. I do not know. Clayton Oliver's still at 10% as well, so he's still a pod-ish. Scott Pendlebury, I don't think you could risk bringing in the role that he's now playing as well. At any rate, for my next selection for the midfield, he was a player I touted as a potential flex selection pre-round 0. Seeing the role he played, I am happy to lock him in here. We are going with Tanner Bruhn from Geelong. Got midfield time, played a little bit of forward, played a little bit of defence, scored 91. They say here, as I'll bring up on screen for you to see, Bruhn showed that the preseason game wasn't a one-off and a solid showing in the loss. He will be highly selected and one that you will not want to miss out on. I'm more confident in selecting Bruhn than I am Darcy Parish and Hayden Young. Hayden Young has been flirted as having a potential injury, so we don't know how he's even going to perform. Yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know here. Yeah, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard. We've still got one more big gun we can bring in. I just completely forgot that Blameyer there, has that role on the bench, and we still have 650k in the bank there to bring somebody else in. So let's have a look here at what we can do in the way of bringing in somebody on the bench. I don't know who can play this role here. Who can we have sit on? I mean, we can bring in a Dirksen, but having Dirksen there as a potential, downgrade option is more tempting than starting him and then just having him earn money. I just don't know who we look at. I would have liked to have looked at maybe, I don't know, looking at somebody like a Jacob Farrow, who has that midfield capability to swap with Grill, but he didn't get named. Xavier Taylor could still very much get named here, but I don't know about his role entirely. Gibcus has been named, but he's going to play more of a key role, so I don't know whether we can afford to select him. I mean, we could just go Zeke Hewland if we wanted to. I didn't like how he scored, though. What did they say about him? Hewland did some good things on debut, but hampered by 3 free kicks against, as well as low efficiency. This score certainly won't put him out of reach, but if he goes big next game, he will be a target. What did he end up scoring? Yeah, only 37 for 200k. I don't know. I don't know whether it was just first game yips, but the commentary team kept fucking talking him up something fierce, didn't they? We could even go a Kitty Coleman if we wanted to here as a mid option. What did he end up scoring last weekend? He only scored a 60. Yeah, his time on ground was low at just 74%. No reason to not select him. I don't know whether they're just trying to ease him into it or not. What are we going to do for our last midfield slot here? Because we can still swing for the fences here. We can still go big. Who did I have? I can't even remember who I had. Did I still have Walsh originally? I've also been looking at players like Max Holmes. 2% owned. Ed Richards could be an odd one out as well. He scored very big on the weekend. Lockie Neal could still be one we do look at. I mean, Neal was the top possession getter in the game. Looked good to go for another great season. We could always as well move someone like a Connor Rosé down and bring in another solidified defender. I honestly can't remember who I selected in this role. This is a bit embarrassing. Do we go with Clayton Oliver? I don't know. I'm getting put off by Errol Goulden because I feel he could be one to let people down just a little bit. Sam Walsh. Sam Walsh did look good. He did look good. If we go with Sam Walsh, leaves us with 111. So it doesn't leave us with much room to get a rookie in unless we did go with a Dirksen just to place him on the bench. I should have probably done a little bit more research before coming in here. Because after that, you're not really looking at many, unless you look at bringing in a mid-pricer like a Parrish or a Young and then using the 300k elsewhere. Brayshaw could be one. I think what we need to do here is I think we do go Dirksen in defense just as that last selection, even though he's not getting game time right now. I think just having him there just frees up and gives us an idea of the money that we can spend, 555. And then we can start looking at, I mean, Will Ashcroft could be one. What did he end up scoring? He scored a 98. Sam Walsh, he scored the 114 or whatever he got there. Tom Atkins, I don't know. Yeah, he only got a 98. Patrick Cripps, he only got a 60. Jai Newcomb had a down game as well, I believe. Yeah, he had the most CBAs, but he scored a 63. Jack Steele could be one as well, I suppose, in that role. Clayton Oliver is still tempting, though. 10% owned. And what do they say about him? Slotted in nicely at the Giants with a game high clearance tally. Many weren't sure of how he would go, but he is amongst the best on the ground. And he looks fit. And Tom Green is out. But can we trust him? I think we can. I think we can, you know. Unless we go for a Walsh. I mean, his body's fit. I think I am going to go Sam Walsh. I am going to go Sam Walsh. I don't know what we can do here in the way of, like, players we can afford. It is just a Dirksen. Just a Dirksen. But it leaves us with 11k in the bank. But I mean, I love some of the options we got here. Obviously, we're going to put Walsh on the ground over Blamires. I just love the diversity we've got here. We do have a bit to work with. Could I drop one of these down to a mid-pricer and bring in somebody on the bench like a Windsor, like a Blackenston? I could, and it would probably be Luke Davies-Uniacke that I did that for. But again, having a look at the draw that North Melbourne come up against with that midfield core, I think Davies-Uniacke can get off the chain early. And again, he's got low ownership, so I'm happy to bring in somebody with a lower ownership to set kind of the scene a little bit here. I'm happy with that. What's my projected? 1944. What are we going to go for vice captain and captain options this week? I mean, I think we put the captain on Miller to score well against the Bulldogs. I think that makes sense. As far as North Melbourne goes, Trish and Cherry, having the captain on him could be nice too. Early on, does Sam Walsh come out the gate strong? Do we captain a Zach Butters against North? There's nobody in these early games that are screaming that they need to be. I mean, vice captain on Walsh is probably my best bet, and then we can lean into the Port North game. But then you can't make the, so yeah. So it's a hard one. It's a hard one. Maybe we go the VC on Butters into the captain of Touk Miller for something a little bit different. For now, we could do something else. We could end up doing like a vice captain on Walsh into the captain of Butters. I don't know, but we don't know whether Butters will get tagged, injury, whatever the case may be. But that is my team for round one. Am I happy with it 100%? No, I think there's room for growth, but I'll probably make those changes ahead of tonight's game anyway. I've changed this formulation here way too many times between the round 0 to now, so this will change probably another 5 times before tonight's hit off. But I'm happy because I've got pods all around. I'm trying to do something a little bit different. Maybe it sets me apart. Fingers crossed. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I will be doing weekly updates this year, so if it's something you're interested in, do hit that subscribe button down below and make sure that notification bell is hit so you get up to date updates whenever I upload. Do leave a like on the video as well. Goes a long way to telling YouTube I'm doing something right around here. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. If you play SuperCoach, feel free to get on board the league I have built. Link in the description. Good luck to you this weekend if you do play, but I will catch you guys next time.